Many weldments start with a 3D sketch. So start a 3D sketch. We're going to start by creating a rectangle to represent our frame. And you'll notice a couple of things. The drawing environment is quite different. And what we do when we constrain in 3D sketches, we typically constrain lines that are along the x-axis, or along the y, or along the z. So I've created a rectangle. If I click and start drawing, you'll notice I'm in the xy plane. If I press tab, it switches to the xz plane. If I press tab again, it switches to the zx plane, in which case this is the plane we want to use for our rectangle. Okay, so tab will switch you from plane to plane. When creating 3D sketches, I find it simpler to dimension and constrain stuff right away, or the picture can become quite confusing. I'm going to lock the midpoint of this line. So I'm going to select the midpoint to the origin, make those coincident. Right. This line I want to run along the x-axis, so we'll select it and we'll tell it to go along x. This line will go along z. These two lines should be parallel, as you can see, and this line and this line should be parallel. Right. I'm going to add some dimensions. So I've started with a rectangle that's fully defined, 900 millimeters by 1200 millimeters. Okay. I'll go back, add some more lines to this sketch. Okay. Again, in the ZX plane. And once again, I'll dimension them to lock them up right away. When I dimensioned these two lines, if this had given me an angle dimension, you should realize what I need to do then is add the constraint to make these two lines parallel. I want to now switch and draw here in the side, so that'll be in our YZ plane. So I'm going to activate the line command, lock it here, and then again I'm going to press tab till it tells me I'm working in YZ. Okay, if you want, you can rotate around, you can look at it from the side view. So I've drawn the side where my wheels will attach to the trailer. Okay. Now, normally what we would do in a 2D sketch is add a center line through here, and we'd add symmetry. If I try and do that now, I'm just going to move this over a bit. So in 2D sketch mode, I would select these two lines in my center line and tell them they're symmetric. And you'll notice in 3D sketch mode that option doesn't exist. Okay, so what do these lines need to be? Well, if you're not sure how they are, let's look at it from the front. They're tilted in a bit, and I want them to be perpendicular to my XZ plane, so they need to be parallel to the YZ plane. To set that up, I'm going to select each of the lines. I'm going to expand the button over here and come over here. The right plane is my YZ plane, so I'll select the YZ plane, and I'm going to tell it to make them parallel to that plane. Okay. Now that they're parallel to the plane, if I look from the front view, right, we can see that. If we look from the right side, again, here's where we would want to add our symmetric, but we can't do that in a 3D sketch. So what we do, let's go back to isometric view, is we'll dimension it. Okay. So we can tell it this angle here is 60. This angle here is also 60. The distance from this line to this line is going to be 200 millimeters. And now we have it fully defined. I don't need this center line. I can delete it or leave it. It doesn't matter either way. I want to now copy these three lines to the other side. So I'm just going to come over here to the Move Entities, choose Copy, select my 3 lines. Alright, so I've selected these 3 lines. Up here it's asking me what reference do I want to use, so I'll just use this as a reference. The distance is 900 millimeters. If it went the wrong way, I just need to do what? Tell it to go in the opposite way. To make it go in the opposite way, I can simply add a negative. Right, a little different than 2D Sketch, and we're good. Okay, so how do I lock these up? There's several options. I can redimension it. I can add constraints between these two. In this case, they're parallel. So I need to add a couple more constraints to get everything done. Or again, I can just add another dimension. I can tell it from this line to this line is also 200. Now my sketch is fully defined. I'm going to continue sketching, and I want to switch back to sketch in my XZ plane. So once again, we press our tab. It's going to tell us we're in XZ. You may want to change your view to top or isometric, whatever you're comfortable working in. I'm going to add a line out here. And I want that line to be coincident with the origin. Okay? So this line is going to be along Z. You'll notice the 70 degrees is moving back and forth. Again, I can't turn on symmetry with the center line, but what I can do in a 3D sketch, is actually add a center line from the origin along the Z. And now to fully define this sketch, I can just dimension half the angle. So we're almost done our trailer. What we're going to add now is some lines here where we can add our wooden sides to the trailer. So when we're all done, we'll have something very similar to this. You'll notice also the location of the tubing on our sketch. This is where we're going to have to play with our locate profile to get it exactly how we want it in relationship to the sketch. So I need to add the lines now back in my XY plane. So activate your line command. Alright, we can select this. Tab once again will change us to the proper plane, and we can create our lines where we need them. After we place the line, quickly double clicking, we'll keep the line command active but not join the lines. All of these lines will be the same length, so they'll be equal, and they also will be parallel. So we're going to choose one line here. Right? We want this along Y. Now from that we can choose the remainder of our lines and tell them to be equal and parallel. And as soon as we dimension 1, the length will be fully defined. Right? So we're going to make them parallel and equal. We'll dimension each from one side to fully define our sketch. We have our part fully dimensioned, and we can check all our dimensions. We realize there's a mistake. Just like in 2D SolidWorks, we can fix our mistake by quickly checking on it. We can rebuild it now as well. Remember to accept your selections. Rebuild, exit your sketch.